Hi guys, welcome back to Michi Makes Up. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Consider giving this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notified every time new content is released. Today we're going to look at 3 new brushes that I've added to my collection. Like many fude lovers, many Japanese brush lovers, you guys know we always want to be adding new brushes to our collection, but there are limits to that. So I am especially excited to be able to share this with you guys. The 3 brushes we'll be looking at are all from Koyudo. The first is from their BP line or BP series. This is brush number 13. It is a foundation brush that you can use with liquid creams and powders made up of goat hair, and it's undyed goat hair. The second brush is from their Fupa line, number 11. You can use it for concealer, highlighting, and it is made up of synthetic hairs. Third brush we have also from their Fupa line. Specifically, it's the pink series because of this pink handle. It's brush number 3, meant for mineral foundations and other types of powders. It is also made up of synthetic fibers. In the demo that'll come after, I'm going to use the new brushes to apply complexion products on the right side of my face. And then in comparison on the left side, I am using brushes that I already have in my collection. So the brushes, to give you guys an early preview that I'll be comparing against, is we have 2 from Sonia G. This here is from her KIQ brush set. It's the mini base. I'll be using it to apply concealer or to blend out concealer. And then I have the Master Face brush, also from Sonia G. This is from her Sky Face set. This will be for applying finishing powder. For foundation, we're actually going to compare against another Koyudo brush, also from the Fupa line. This is number 13 in small size. So this is my go-to foundation brush every time I use a liquid foundation, and I just love it. And the fourth brush, I'm using this to apply blush on the left side. This is from Beautylish. It's their Lunar New Year brush. The design is from Year of the Rat. You can no longer get this brush, but it is pretty much very similar in specs to a few Chikuhodo brushes. I'll link the alternatives below that you can have a look at if you're very interested in this brush. As we're getting into the product description for every new brush, we're going to first start with the Koyudo BP Series 13. This is a foundation brush, and it is handmade in Kumano, Japan. It is made with specially selected Hakutotsu goat hair to give you a flawless and smooth finish with your foundation. It can also be used with powders and creams as well, since it's undyed goat hair. And while the bristles, the hairs, are pretty packed, and this is a big brush, I just want you guys to see how much area it can cover on my face and the size next to my hand. It is the biggest foundation brush that I have. So what's notable is first how soft the hair is, and second, how airy it feels despite of how dense it looks and the size. And with the number 11, it's not very densely packed. It is angled, and there are some fibers that are a bit longer than others at the top, which I think you can see through the camera. The BP13, which I didn't mention, is flat here at the top, so the hairs are uniform or cut uniformly, and then it does have kind of rounded angles. It makes the brush very versatile, actually. You'll see in the demo. I use it for both applying foundation and blush. Last but not least, we have the Fupa number 3, also in the pink series. The handle is beautiful. This pink handle, just through photos I've seen online, didn't stand out as much. I mean, if you like pink, I think you'll like this, but it also has tiny reflective specks or sparkles, which you can really see. It's very apparent in person, and it just adds that special touch, special detail to it, and that is why I enjoy fude, the amount of detail you get in these brushes. This is also made up of synthetic hairs. It's meant for mineral foundations and also powders. I did use this to apply blurring powder or finishing powder on my face, so you guys can see the comparison there. I would definitely love to try this on mineral foundation when I get a chance. And as for the shape of the brush, The top is flat and it's very uniform. And also with these synthetic fibers, it just has this glossy sheen to it that reminds me of horsehair. It's just so glossy. As for where you can buy these brushes, get pricing, and more information on them, I do have some recommendations. For the BP series, or the BP 13 specifically, you can buy it from both Beautylish and CD Japan. For both of the Fupa brushes, I got them from CD Japan, which is where I recommend you look first. So if you are looking for brushes and they're available at Beautylish and CD Japan, here are some things you can consider before you decide where to buy from. Pricing between the two are fairly similar. Sometimes there is a couple of US dollar differences, and then in addition to that, there could also be a difference as a result from exchange rates, especially if the credit card you're using will charge you a currency exchange fee. So that's something to keep in mind. And I would consider playing around with your cards to see what you will pay in taxes, because that's going to make a difference. In terms of service and shipping, service is good on both sides. Beautylish is extremely responsive, so I would be surprised if you ever had to wait more than 1 or 2 days to hear back from them. Whenever I've reached out, I would hear back the same day from them. CD Japan, shipping not an issue, even though they come all the way across the ocean. I find that they are just very quick considering of potential customs and things like that. I think they are so experienced in shipping internationally that they just make sure they do everything correctly the first time, and it makes it to you in a very timely manner. I got my brushes, which I ordered all from CD Japan. I got them in less than 5 business days. That's pretty amazing. You do get free shipping from both sites, but there are different purchase requirements. From Beautylish, you can get free shipping within the States when you have a purchase order of $35 or more. If you are at $75 or more, you will automatically be upgraded to expedited shipping at no extra charge, so it's basically free. CD Japan also has free shipping specifically for brushes, but you do have to meet a minimum purchase of 120,000 yen, which is about 110 US dollars. The packaging from the two companies, notably CD Japan will put your brushes in a CD Japan box. It's kind of cool. They will also put your brushes in this bubble envelope to protect it. And then typical Fude brushes do come with this plastic sleeve, so your brush will be inside the sleeve and then inside this bubble envelope, which they will put into the box. Your brush order will also come with a card that has some basic tips on how to take care of these brushes, and all of their brushes come with a 1-year warranty. That's pretty cool. So if you have any issues, you can certainly reach out to them and you should be taken care of. With Beautylish, their brushes don't come in this kind of custom box. It does come in their typical box, and it does come in this plastic sleeve here, which is not supplied by Beautylish or CD Japan. This is just from Koyudo. And the brushes will be wrapped in Beautylish's classic black wrapping paper and typically tied with a little ribbon of some sort. Whether I prefer one or the other, I really don't have a preference. What matters to me most is there's good customer service and that the products will arrive in good condition and in a timely manner. I've had good experiences with both. With Beautylish, because of how often I order from them, I have experienced delays, and I don't think that's fair to put on Beautylish because I haven't ordered as much from CD Japan. So maybe out of 10 orders, you might face some kind of delay from both companies. I do think both companies try to get orders out the door as soon as they receive it, in the best interest of giving you a good customer experience. I think the best thing to do is, if you are ordering 1 or 2 brushes, maybe even 3 brushes, and you are based in the States, Beautylish might be your best option, but they also don't carry a lot of Fude brushes from Koyudo. So you might actually just end up going to CD Japan anyway. If you're ordering 1 to 3 brushes and you live in the States, your best option may be Beautylish. unless they don't carry the brush you're looking for, because they don't have a huge selection of Koyudo brushes available. If your order is getting up there in size, I would definitely take the time to add things to your cart, both from CD Japan and Beautylish, assuming both have the brushes you want, and just do a comparison. Look at the currency exchange, see how much your credit card company is going to charge you for a fee if you were to order from CD Japan. And I think that's the best way to figure out where you're getting the best deal from. So now let's head on to the demo. I will summarize all of my thoughts at the very end. We're going to first start with concealer. I put some on my right eye already, and just adding a few more spots here. And any redness or blemishes. So I'm going to go in with this brush here, and we're going to work the product in. So this is what it looks like on the right side with the concealer blended in. Now let's go into the left side. With the left side, I'm using my Sonia G Keyaki brush. I love this brush. It's a great size for under the eyes and smaller areas. We'll see how this compares to the Fupa brush. So for today's demonstration, I did overdo my concealer by a bit, but that's okay. I think we can still look at each side and compare very specific areas. I'm going to come a little bit closer here. Again, on the right side, I am using Koyudo's 03 brush, and then on the left side, I am using Sonia G's Khaki brush set. This is the mini base. Looking at under the eyes, I would say there isn't much difference. Both blends in the product fairly well and provides like good coverage. The notable difference between these two is because the surface area of this brush is still smaller than the mini base, I can really control how much the concealer spreads and how detailed the work is. So if I'm blending the concealer right here, I'm not going to get a lot of concealer spread to these areas. Like I would have to move the brush here. The mini base with a bigger surface in comparison, as I'm working in this area, like already you can see I'll be getting concealer here. Usually that's not really a problem for me, but if you're working in detailed areas and you want to have a lot of control, you don't want too much of the concealer to spread because it could affect how your overall complexion looks at the end. Like maybe, for me, I have a brightening concealer. It's about 2 to 3 shades lighter than my skin. If I have too much on, at the end, when I finish my look, it's gonna look like my foundation is too light because my concealer is light, therefore it affects everything. So having more control is good, and I'm really interested to see once the finishing powder and all that goes on, how does everything look? Does it stay in place pretty well, or maybe I can't even tell the difference between the two? And the other thing about these two brushes that's worth noting is obviously the hairs are different. This is goat hair and this is synthetic. The shape is also different, and there's a lot more give with this brush versus this one. Depending on how you want to use it, you actually might want something that has more bounce to it, because then you can really pat on the product. Whereas this, you can't do it as much. You can pat on the product, but if you go too hard, you're going to end up pushing too far these bristles. So that's worth keeping in mind. We're gonna move on to foundation, and today I'm using Surratt's Dewdrop Foundation in shade number 5. On the right side, we're gonna go in with the BP High Class series. This is brush number 13. So I'm just going to use one side of the brush here to get some product, and then I'm gonna start using it to spread across the face. So this side I have 2 drops of the foundation spread throughout. And this is what the brush looks like after having been used. Prior to this, there was no foundation, so I had just washed it, dried, and I'm using it for the first time. On the left side, I'm going to go in with the usual foundation brush that I use. It's also from Koyudo, and this is the Fupa 13 in the small size. Same as the right side, we're going to use 2 drops of foundation. So coming in closer here, there really is a difference in the finish between the 2 brushes. It's very noticeable. With the BP Series 13, I get a sheer or more sheer application with the same amount of foundation, and it looks flawless, it looks airbrushed, but it is more sheer. On the left side, same amount of product in terms of foundation, it looks more packed on, like there's more coverage from it. It still looks airbrushed, but the 2 is notably different. I also have a little bit more concealer on this side, but it was also kind of packed on because these 2 brushes are pretty dense, whereas these 2, they're both airier in comparison. With the BP 13 brush, there's a flat top here, so you could actually use it to apply foundation also like this. But because of the shape, I found that it was more intuitive, and I really wanted to try applying foundation with the side of the brush like this, with kind of these longer strokes, broader strokes. With the Fupa 13 small, it does have a flat top here and angled. I think this angled side is really good for these areas. And of course, if you want to avoid getting foundation onto your brows, mine are drawn already, I can use the angle side to avoid that. Also these areas here. But as I'm applying the foundation, I am using the flat part to dip into the foundation and then use short strokes to do this. So interesting that the shape of the brush, how it's bundled together, and how you apply it can really have an impact on the finished result. And because of the size of these 2 brushes, it was a lot quicker to finish applying foundation on this side and still have this flawless airbrush finish, whereas with this brush it took longer and it was a bit more meticulous. There was a larger size of this brush, exact same shape, and also by Koyudo. It's now discontinued just like this brush, so I would imagine with the bigger brush of this, it would actually take less time to apply foundation. Although I still would say, because the BP is going to be bigger than the big version of this, I think you do end up saving a lot of time using a brush of this size. And to show you guys the difference between this brush in the small versus large, I actually do have a Fupa brush, and this is different. This is the 05. It's meant for liquid or powder foundation or products. It's dual-sided. This side is natural hair, goat hair. This side is synthetic, same as this concealer Fupa 11 brush, but this is in the large size. There is a version that is smaller, and I just want to show you of the same Fupa series what a large looks like versus small. While there is a difference, it's not a huge difference. And when I hold this brush next to the BP, still considerable size difference. For setting powder, I'm going to do it off camera and use the same brush for both sides of the face. And I'm going to go with Sonia G's from her Sky Face set. This is the Master Face brush. So this is with setting powder applied, using the same brush, same product. We're now going to go in with a finishing powder. And so this is Chantecaille's blurring powder. I heard this is coming back. It's not currently available, but I heard this is coming back, which is great news. This is such an amazing product. It offers the most, well, first of all, it looks pretty subtle, but once you apply it, there's just something, like everything just looks smoother. And it doesn't have any glitter or reflective quality to it, but it just does the job, and it's subtle but does the job, so it's excellent. What I'm going to do is, using the Fupa 13 brush, we're going to buff this onto the right side of the face. So I have a good amount of product here, and I'm going to start just around the cheeks. And then on my left side, I am using Sonia G's Master Face brush again. So let's take a closer look here. I would say the right side is more natural looking. You have the concealer that wasn't necessarily packed on as much as the side, and the foundation that, you know, has a airbrush but still sheer finish, natural sheer finish. And then with this brush, I found that while it did get the product on, I think it's too dense and the top is too flat and uniform to really be effective applying finishing powders or even setting powders. This brush is designed for mineral foundation, so I think it'll work better with those base complexion products of the powder nature, or perhaps even liquid, because you can use it for liquid. This is synthetic hairs. So interesting, yeah. I think it's too flat to really be light in terms of buffing in powders. So in comparison, I think Sonia G's Master Face is the better fit for finishing powders and of course setting powders as well. For blush, I'm going to use Suku's Pure Color Blush. This is in the shade Sakura Hikari. And I'm actually going to go into, or back, with my BP 13 brush here to apply this, because you can actually use this brush for powder products as well. And while the description of this brush is not meant for applying blush per se, I still think maybe it's going to surprise me and do a good job of that. So we'll see. And I'm just going to take product like this, tap off excess. Wow, that looks pretty good. For the left side, I'm going to go with the Beautylish Lunar New Year brush. This is Year of the Rat design. And the reason why I'm going with this brush rather than like a Sonia G face brush like we've been doing, I find that the size, while not the same, has some comparable qualities. So we're going to give this a try, but the density of the two are different. This one is softer, airier in comparison, and this is packed denser. What I expect is the application is going to be a little bit softer and then cover more area on the left side from this brush. So coming in closer here on the left side, I did use Beautylish's Lunar New Year brush, and then on the right side I used BP 13, which is Koyudo's brush. And this side is more diffuse than this side. And the motion I used for the two brushes were different too, because I was doing this with an upward motion, and I got exactly that. On this side, I did kind of like a circular motion, still upwards, but I would, you know, come back down around. And I think that's the other factor contributing to the difference. I would conclude that with this brush, because it is denser than this, you're going to get a more concentrated color payoff. This will be more diffused. And even if I try to mimic the hand motion that I use for the right side, I think the shade or the color would still be more diffuse. It's just so soft and it has a lot of give. Whereas this can give you a very controlled shape or application. I'm gonna finish my makeup off camera and then we'll come back for a summary. When I look at the results under regular lighting, it's still hard to tell the difference between the two sides. Like, I would have no issues if I go out like this. It's just very subtle. But if you look very closely and you know to look, I would say it's definitely more sheer on the right side than the left side, and it has to do with the airiness of this brush. This, out of the three, is the standout brush, and this is a standout brush within my brush collection because of how versatile it is. You can use it for powder. I did that with the blush and I think it looks really nice. It's so easy to apply foundation as well because of the size, and it just, you know, it just gets product on, it spreads it evenly. You do get a flawless finish, even though it's a little bit more sheer, you get a flawless finish, and it's just kind of like a no fuss. So between this and my Fupa brush, I would say it really all depends on how quickly I want my makeup done. If I can be more meticulous because I have the time and I want that coverage, like this that you see here, this would be the go-to. This can get you there. All three are very soft compared to what I have in my collection for the same type of uses. So if you have sensitive skin, I do think these might be really viable or good options for you to look into, because if something like this can potentially be scratchy because you are working under your eyes, it's more sensitive. This is actually very soft, has a lot of give. And this is very soft too for a foundation brush, very fluffy. When it comes to the two foundation brushes, I do think this does a better job of packing on product and still spreading it. This gives you more control. So for really small areas where I just want, like, just right here, I don't want a ton of blending, like maybe blemishes, I think this would be an excellent option. I would also like to try to use this a few more times for under the eyes and see how it turns out, because like this, I do think I like this side more, the left side. I think it looks more blended into the skin using this brush. As for number 3, also from the Fupa series, I really need to try this with mineral foundation, what it was meant for, because finishing powders and setting powders, I think it would end up moving your foundation. It's just so dense and it's so uniform at the top. There's actually very little give, like it actually grabs on to your skin a little bit. It's not uncomfortable, it's actually very soft, but I don't think it's quite meant for applying powder lightly all over the face and buffing it in. I still think this is an excellent brush for that type of use. This is a very fun video for me to do. Thank you for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.